everyone, welcome. How many of you came yesterday? Pretty much everyone. Excellent, fantastic. Cool, so you already know who I am then. My name is Sam Contra. I am the course coordinator for law. And I have 6 specific slides for this. Oh, actually, let's go back. I should probably look at the slides in order, shouldn't I? So I'd like to acknowledge that today we are meeting on the lands of the Kaurna people, and I imagine the people online are also on Kaurna land, just to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land since time immemorial and their elders past, present and emerging. I think we're very lucky to be on such beautiful lands to teach and to work on, and I count myself very privileged to be here. Please note that the session is being recorded. Excellent. All right, so this session is going to be pretty low-key compared with New in Law yesterday. This is basically just a chance to have a bit of a chat, get to know one another, answer questions, give you the opportunity to get to know your mentors in a little bit more depth, and yeah, just basically a bit of a Q&A, just quite a general conversation and just getting us to connect in that way. So we might start by doing a few different introductions so that everybody knows who everybody is, and we've got a small group of students as well, so we might get everybody to introduce themselves also, but we're going to start with us teaching staff, and then we'll hand over to the mentors, and then we'll sort of work our way through. Judith, would you like to get us started?
Stand up. You don't all have to stand. I teach, so I get used to standing up.
Yeah, Alex, do you think we need to use a mic, or is it all good?
Can you hear me talking? Do I do my best? Reach to the back of the room talking. So hi, so my name is Judith Bannister. I am what's called the Teaching Program Director. So there's lots of roles. Everyone who was here yesterday would have met Tanya, I think, who's Dean of Law. So you might wonder what a Teaching Program Director is, and in a way you won't come across me in that role very much at all because I'm working behind the scenes. So I'm responsible for making sure that all our programs are staffed and what everyone teaches, so I have lots of interesting discussions with all my colleagues about what their topics are and that we have enough staff to cover everything and so forth. And I sit on lots of university committees, and none of which would be of much interest to you, but that's my role. I also teach administrative law, so I will see you all in about year 3 or so, depending on how you're progressing through your degrees, because I teach administrative law, which comes in the middle of the program. That was my area of research, or my area of research before I became a teaching specialist, and let's face it, a university bureaucrat, which is what I do a lot of the time. I teach administrative law, and I practice administrative law in the sense that I sit on committees and make administrative decisions and hear appeals and all that kind of thing. So, and you may not actually, I'm assuming people know what administrative law is, aren't I? Which is a bad move at this point. So administrative law is about, it's government law. It's about government decision making. That might be a university, but it's other state and federal governments, and how you can challenge government decisions. Now, often people come to that role, to that topic, thinking, oh, that's pretty dry. But in actual fact, calling government to account and making them accountable for their robo-debt decisions and other kinds of things is actually quite important, and I hope that I can make it interesting for you when we get there. So that was my area of research. I also worked and studied in intellectual property and information regulation, so freedom of information. You can see the crossover there. And government. What have I done? I've done my research, what I teach. I was supposed to give a fun fact. Come on, you're young. I'm not fun, let's face it.
Just tell them something about your puppy.
I didn't know. Oh, my puppy. Well, actually, I was going to tell you something about my early life. But so I have a puppy which my daughter at the age of 8 insisted we get, and I didn't want, but now I adore, and she claims that I love the puppy more than her. But that wasn't the fun fact that I was going to say. What I was going to say is, before I was a lawyer, and we won't talk about how many decades ago this was, I was a librarian. So when I was a school leaver, be careful because not everyone in the room is a school leaver, but when I was a school leaver, I chose librarianship, I studied librarianship, and I worked as a librarian, and at the age of 25, I gathered together all the money I'd earned over 7 years and went and blew it on what you'd call now as a gap year. We didn't call it a gap year back then, but anyway, I backpacked around Nepal and India and Asia and Europe for a year. And in that process, I decided I didn't want to be a librarian, I wanted to be a lawyer. So So I came back, started again, studied law, and I didn't actually qualify for law until I was 30. So my message, my not so fun fact, but my experience is, you don't know where your careers are going to go. You have no idea what life has in store for you. But I would say both my degrees I have used throughout my entire career. And you never know when what you study at university will be of use. So get the best results you can, take up every opportunity you can, and you'll be surprised how that will then flow through to whatever you want. How's that? Was that
was
I supposed to say anything
That's
else?
fine.
No, that's
That was
good.
perfect. That was excellent.
I'll answer any questions.
And Judith will talk to you with me much more about the degree a little bit later on.
Absolutely.
So I guess a little bit more about me. So firstly, please call me Sam. And because yes, Samantha, but please call me Sam. I'm Samantha when I'm in trouble with my family, essentially, and that's about it. And in my email address and in university correspondence and things like that. But we'll leave this one side. So I've been teaching here for a long time now, a little while now. I actually did my degree here as well. So I did law and behavioural science before I went on to do a PhD and started teaching here back in, say 2012. I don't know why I'm looking. You don't know the answer to this, but 2012-ish, thereabouts. So I've been teaching for a little while, and I've been teaching pretty much first year law in all of that time. So many of you, if you met me yesterday or if you've seen on Canvas, I coordinate essential legal skills. So you'll see quite a bit of me across this semester running workshops and sort of teaching you the basics of law. I also teach tort law, which is a second year topic, or if you're doing the dip laws, you might be doing that this semester. And in that, we cover things like negligence. I'm fascinated by negligence, and I can talk about it extensively because I think it's really nuanced, but I won't bore you with that right now. If anyone isn't studying torts and they would like to talk about it, I'm very happy to do that at some stage. In terms of other research that I do, so I research dispute resolution, so I have a strong focus there on negotiation. That's what my PhD was on. I find it really interesting to be able to think about negotiation and how we negotiate. The most recent statistics say that only 5% of law cases end up in court. It was 9 to 10 about 10 years ago, so we've come down to 5. So it's important that we know how to negotiate. So I'm all about how do we do that, and indeed we'll learn some stuff about negotiation this semester. And some of you did negotiation yesterday to get you started. Fun fact, I have a cat. I have a cat named Gracie. She appears when I teach online sometimes. So if any of you are in my online workshop, you might see her appear if I'm teaching from home. I guess to follow Judith's lead, when I first started my double degree in law and psych, I actually wanted to be a psychologist. And then I was put up by how much maths was involved in studying psych. I think it's the psych degree or the behavioural science degree, but yeah, there was a little bit too much for me, and I was kind of devastated because I was so keen on forensic psych, and I was like, oh, law and psych, that's forensics, that's perfect, that's exactly, I can do something with this. And then yeah, that didn't really happen. And then I did a little bit of work sort of in family law, so looking at the dispute resolution space, and then I started teaching and fell in love with it, and here I am. I haven't left yet. I've been here for a very long time now. Yeah. So that's it really for me. Like Judith, happy to answer any questions that people have as we go through the session, and yeah, looking forward to getting to know all of you as we progress through the semester. Mentors, you're up. Alex.
I'm Alex. Most of you met me yesterday. I'm joined Straight Law. This will be my 5th year. This is my 3rd time mentoring. I had 2 rabbits, so it's a fun fact about myself.
Excellent.
My name is Vishwas. I'm studying law and practice, and I'm also studying finance. I'm in my 3rd year, and I'm planning on being a cook. And if I was to study law, I'd be a teacher.
We're going to skip to Emma for the time being.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm studying law and legal practice combined with a Bachelor of Arts. And I am in my 2nd year, and I have got 2 cats.
Yeah, good day, I'm Jack. I'm doing legal science, law and political sciences. Fun fact, I'm tall.
I'm Jake. I'm studying law and international relations. I'm in my 2nd year. Probably a fun fact is I play drums.
Hey, I'm Josh. I'm just doing straight law and legal practice. Going into my 3rd year this year. Fun fact is I'll play guitar.
Excellent.
Hello, I'm Takuma. I'm the acting president of the Law Student Association. Hopefully that means that I'll get a good chance to get to know all of you later in the year through competitions and events. If we're talking fun facts, I guess I have a bad hobby of playing too many card games.
Excellent. Now, how do our new students feel about introducing themselves to the group? Or is that too scary at this stage? No, if you're okay to say their name, maybe tell us if you're doing a combined degree, or you can come up with a fact. It doesn't have to be a fun fact. I feel like I probably shouldn't have said fun in the title of that. Something about you, maybe a hobby that you have, or what did I do with mentors? I asked them the last thing that they watched on TV, or a movie, or streaming, or whatever it might be. Let's start at the back.
I'm Steve. I'm just doing straight law.
Any fact, anything about you. What do you do in your spare time?
I have a cat.
Excellent. That's good. Perfect.
Luke, I like training. I'm law officer. I like training. I've got about 12 dogs. I like dogs. I like gardening.
Fantastic.
I'm Dash. I'm doing a bachelor cat thing. I'm Tasha, but I'm Cash. I'm doing the business. I have a dog, and I play tennis. My name is Anna. I'm the law and legal practice.
My name is Elizabeth, always, I don't know whatever. I'm just doing straight law and I'm tactical.
My name is Bowen. I'm doing law and legal practice and international relations, and I play piano.
All right. I'm Mitchell, or Mitch, either or. I'm studying laws and legal practice, and I guess a fun fact about me is I've played hockey for about 11 years.
Field hockey or ice hockey?
Field hockey. Yeah.
Excellent. Now we do have someone online, Alyssa. I'm not sure if you can, I'm hoping you can hear us. I'm not sure if you have a microphone. If you'd like to turn it on and introduce yourself or type in the chat, that's fine. You can still hear me. Okay, cool. Maybe Alyssa's not there at the moment. That's okay. We'll meet her later. Excellent. So look, I think it's, and you know, you're going to find that in your first workshops, you spend a lot of time introducing yourselves. You do little icebreakers, things like that. We try not to make them too intense. I feel like fun is probably the most intense. Fun fact is the most intense we'll get in my classes. Part of that is because, you know, studying at university can be really challenging. Law itself has particular challenges. It's like learning a different language, and I'll talk a lot about that as we progress through essential legal skills. And I guess it's also kind of like learning an instrument. You know, I teach piano, or I used to teach piano, and when I had young kids come in, they'd be like, oh, I want to learn this song from this TV show. How do I play it? I'm like, this is C. We're going to start here. And they just look at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, you can't play a song straight away, but we're going to get there. And it's the same with law. You have to learn how it works and how things fit together. So it does take a little bit of time. So starting to get to know the people around you, the people in the room today, the mentors, us, that's going to be really important, because we are essentially each other's support network as we start on this journey through law together. So as corny as that sounds, it's really important to start making some of these connections. As Tanya said yesterday, the research shows that if you make one connection, if you meet one person, your grades will also grow up, which is nice, and we all like that, but I think it's even more important just to have that connection. So I'm kind of half ignoring the mentors at the moment, just talking to the new people. But getting to know one another, and in this small group, you have the chance to talk to each other and get to know each other a little bit, and I really encourage you to do that. All right, so I confess, completely butchered the slides and gone out of order with everything, because we've got a small group and many of you were here yesterday. So we're going to go to a slide that says mentors and mentoring, which is where the mentors are supposed to introduce themselves, but I preempted that one. What I will say in terms of mentoring, you've heard me talk about it before yesterday and or in the session just now. Essentially, our mentoring program is designed for all students within the college. Those of you doing combined degrees might find you have a mentor in your combined degree as well. But essentially, the mentors will run weekly sessions with you, give you tips, just be there to support you essentially throughout the semester. Their bios, if you didn't grab one yesterday, are up the back. So there's a pack of sheets at the back with some descriptions and some tips that they have for you, so that you can start to think about which group you might want to join, as well as which time fits your timetable. So all of their times are on that piece of paper so that you can start thinking about that. Yesterday at New in Law, Judith will be entertained by this. So we tried to put a quiz up in Canvas. We tried to get students to sign up for times. Looking back at the statistics, 17 people actually had access to the quiz and not everybody else, and no one can tell me why. So my job later today is to talk to some of our tech people and try and work out what's going on there. So there will be another way to register for those mentoring sessions. I just need to work out some of the teething issues. Like Jessica said in the session we were just in, Canvas is new to us all. So we are learning as a big group.
Good. I was just going to say, did you explain that this is brand new? But I would also say, just generally, if something doesn't work or you can't work something out, don't assume it's you. Students who let us know, the first thing we'll email back is say, thank you for letting us know. Actually, there's 20 students impacted in this way, and I will now fix it. So if you speak up and ask questions, it's fabulous for you and for everyone else, and we're grateful as well.
Absolutely, and if you can screenshot things and send them to us so that we can see what you see. We don't always have the same view, and all of these systems, Flow, Canvas, anything, they have quite complicated, like behind the scenes settings and things that we need to tweak. And while we all feel a little bit more confident with those settings in Flow, the level of detail in Canvas is different once again. So we are learning and we are trying, and with your help, hopefully we will get there as quickly as possible. I guess that sort of leads me to sort of pepper in some tips as I go today, that sort of leads me to this idea that Canvas is going to be really important for you in your studies. You need to be logging in and looking at Canvas. There is a very handy phone app that works and looks good and isn't navigatable, if that's a word. And I was playing with it this morning, and it's actually really, really helpful. Flow did not have a phone app, so this is why I'm so excited by this. You just sort of log in on an internet browser and just scroll and scroll and scroll. Is that a comment? Okay, excellent. It's called Canvas Student. Yeah. So if you just search for it in the App Store or whatever the Play Store or whatever type of phone you use, you'll be able to download that for free and sign in with your Lender's credentials. So when you type in your FAN and email address, it'll go straight into Okta and get you to sign in that way. And then I believe you only have to sign in once. It'll just be there on your phone, which, yeah, I am beyond excited by this. That's because it's so exciting to have something that actually works on a phone app, and Canvas works really nicely. So once I learn how to use it.
Is that to sort of stop people having to lug their computers in and that?
No, I think it's also like you can listen to our videos and things. So I think as people, catch buses and things, we've found more and more students like to watch the videos and to make use of their time in that way. Using it through an app just makes it a little bit easier.
It's also really good to check announcements, like check before coming to a class to make sure it's not being cancelled if it's in person, so you can easily see if it's on an app rather than another way.
Any other benefits
to having the app? Look, I think it depends on you a little bit. So if you're happy to just use it on your computer, that's awesome. If you want to have both, so I'm using both essentially so that I can post things and I can navigate things and just monitor things in both ways. From a teaching perspective, we have to use it on a computer because we have to be able to update things a little bit more easily than the app. But yeah, I think it comes down to your learning style.
do you recommend that the students just have phones to use?
Either way, it doesn't, I don't think it matters. So for you.
No, that's all right. I would say now, this might say something about me. I can't read large amounts of text on a phone. And one thing I would say about law, and you need to get ready for this, folks, is that there's a lot of reading of text in law. I mean, you know that, you're nodding already. That's the whole point. We read case law, we read legislation. The university has screens everywhere. So if you haven't got a computer yourself, that's fine. You're on campus, you can use the library or whatever. But I would just say, phone's great for all the things we've been talking about, but if you have to read and understand slabs of text, I think I'd be finding a spot in the library to do that.
Yeah, I would say I would use the Canvas phone app to check things, to update things, maybe to watch a video, maybe, or listen to, sometimes we put up podcasts and recordings for you to watch or listen to. I think it can be useful for that, particularly if you're just listening to absorb the information. I feel like if you're taking notes, maybe a computer might be easier. In class, I would be tempted more towards using a laptop or an iPad or something like that. Does that answer you? I feel like I talked around your question a little bit. Does that answer your question? Yep. Excellent. Any other questions at this stage? Right. So, Tanya mentioned a little bit about this yesterday, but part of this session is for us to talk a bit about the degree and what you might be for the degrees and what you might be studying. Is anyone doing the diploma? Yep. Excellent. Cool. So then we'll make sure we talk about both. Judith, would you like to talk a little bit to this?
I absolutely can. In relation to what the structure of
Talk
it.
talk about things that they'll learn.
Okay, so you all start off, and it's great that we've got both diploma and bachelor students here. You all start off in the same topics, and people in the diploma might just complete the diploma alone or might swap over at some point into the LLB as well. So you all do the same topics and start off with what's called core. So core are the compulsory topics. So Sam, essential legal skills is your first core topic where you learn all your basic skills for all of the topics that come later. So when I see you in the middle of your degree in administrative law, you will still be using the skills that Sam has taught you in relation to statutory interpretation and problem solving right back from this semester. Your other bureaucrat, I do this all the time. You think I know this off the top of my head, but I'm still going to refer to a piece of paper.
Tanya listed the Priestley's off the top of her head.
Oh, did she?
And we were
Well,
very impressed.
Did she get every single one of them?
No, Rob Pilgrim Corpse. She missed Corpse.
All right, excellent. So that's really good because I was going to talk about that. So, but we'll just talk about Priestley again because you will find that law academics talk about Priestley as if the entire world understands what Priestley is. So Priestley was a man who wrote a list decades ago, which we've been using ever since, which is basically all the admitting authorities throughout Australia say that you have to do all of these topics as core. To be a qualified lawyer who is admitted to practice in all the various Supreme Courts, you have to know about constitutional law. And I'm not going to pretend to list the whole thing, but constitutional law and administrative law and contract and corporate law and criminal law and so forth. And sometimes you come across students who say, oh, look, I'm never going to be a criminal lawyer. You say, yes, I was never a criminal lawyer. I never did. I've never looked at crim since I left law school. But to be qualified practice, you have to do that. So that's why you're doing all of these core topics at the beginning. So,
can I interject for a second?
Yeah.
So one of the questions that your friends and your family will ask you is, what are you specialising in? What area of law are you studying? This is because the general population doesn't know what Judith just told you. They don't know that we have to sort of qualify in lots and lots of different areas. So I guess that's your answer to the question of, what are you going to specialise in? You probably don't know yet. You're going to learn lots and lots of different areas, and then towards the end of the degree, you might do some electives that help you to choose what area you might want to work in, or you might just leave that until you get admitted to practice.
I just want to say, keep an open mind. You might find out that you go into a topic and you thought you might not like it, but you actually may love it. So just keep an open mind.
Yeah, so often you come across students and they say, I came from schools in knowing that I was going to be a corporate lawyer, and now I've discovered human rights or constitutional law or something else. Maybe even administrative law, you never know. Torts, that's right. And I didn't even know about that, and that's where I'm going to end up. So, so that's great. So your core topics, the first of these Priestley is actually criminal law in second semester. So a number of the other core topics are developing skills. You're doing ethics. I assume those of you who are doing straight law or the diploma, you'll be doing all of these topics. If you're sitting there thinking I'm doing a combined degree and I'm not doing all these topics, that's fine. It just means that your degree is spread out a little longer and you're doing your other topics. But what you study in ethics and professionalism is part of the Priestley core as well. And as well, did Tanya talk yesterday about the innovation topic? So yeah, and so did Rob. Yeah, excellent. So sitting alongside again, skills around thinking creatively around problem and solving and so forth. So lots of skill base before you get into these Priestley subjects, such as criminal law in second semester, you do international law in second semester, you do Indigenous peoples, colonial economics and then the law in the second semester. So these are all core. You won't come, even if you're doing straight law, you won't really come to doing any option topics, specialisations until second semester in second year. Is that the kind of thing you had in mind?
And I guess the reason for that last point is because we have to teach you some stuff first.
Yes.
You need to have a good foundation before we can get you into some of those elective topics that you can choose from. I think we talked yesterday a little bit about how our elective or option topics tend to run on a 2-yearly cycle mainly. So you might not see one this year, but it'll be next year. So for instance, I'm teaching family law this year, so that probably won't be available next year, but then the year after, etc. For a diploma student, because you get some choices about how you do things in the diploma, if you want to come and have a chat to me afterwards, I'm happy to give you some advice on what you might choose based on your interests. Yes, perfect, thank you. All right, so some top tips for starting out at university. We went through a lot of different tips yesterday. I think you've had a lot already so far today. I didn't say one. I was expecting Jeremy to ask me specifically, but I didn't say one at the earlier session. My top tip is always the same, and it's to write down your questions. You will have questions. They will come up either while you're reading or, as you're riding the bus to uni or whatever it might be. Something might pop up in your mind. Write it down. Don't rely on your memory because this first few weeks is going to feel a little bit overwhelming. It's the same with anything new. So I think keeping a list, and I still do this, whenever anything pops into my mind to remember, I just put it in notes on my phone because I know that my memory is going to betray me at some point and I'm not going to remember things. So write down your questions. You may find that you answer them yourself. Like you might be reading through some of your readings for your topic. Reading through some of your readings for a topic and say, oh, that's the answer to that question. Okay, cool. And that's amazing. But if you don't have the answers, when you come to workshops, particularly in my topic, you're very welcome to ask all your questions, and you're also welcome to ask your mentors.
Just a brief anecdotal on that, because Sam is totally right. You will forget your questions. I remember in my first semester we were doing criminal law because I enrolled in mid-semester. It was a little weird. But me and my friend Nick, we were sitting in class listening to Rain's lecture, and he thought of a question. He's like, yeah, I need to ask Rain this question at the end of the lecture. It's really important. So while he's waiting to talk to Rain, I think I showed him a meme or said a joke, and he totally forgot the question. Out of his head, could not think of it anymore. And turns out it was a reasonably important misconception about the thing we went through that session. So when he thought of it next week, it was pretty good to pick up on.
And I'd also say, ask these questions. So lots of students, we spend our life saying there's no such thing as a silly question. I know everyone says that to you, but it's really true because don't feel as though, one, I should have done the reading and I should also already know the answer to this. Don't think there's only one answer to this and I just have missed it. Law is about a discussion, a debate. There's two sides to an argument. There's different ways of looking at things. And until you engage with that, ask questions. Someone else in the group will ask another question and you have a discussion about this. You're not learning anything. So don't think that it's just a slab of information that you have to memorize and you're just sitting there quietly thinking, oh my God, I haven't done enough reading. Obviously, if I'd done more reading, I would understand it. You could have done all the required reading and still have these questions, and that's why we're meeting you in workshops.
Absolutely, and you're just one of 100 students in the topic. So if you have the question, I guarantee at least a good handful of people have the same question as you. Probably most of them, possibly me too.
Yeah.
And sometimes we might not be able to answer your question, but we'll be able to help you find the answer and work it out from there. I think when I first started teaching, I was terrified of the questions that students might ask me, thinking, oh my gosh, what do I do if I don't know this? And now I get really excited when I get asked a question I don't know the answer to, because I think it's important to show you that we don't know everything and to show you how we might then go about finding the answer. I think Judith's being a librarian.
Yes, sometimes we take questions on notice, and if you've asked us a question and we think, actually, I'm going to have to go away and find out, it may be that it's outside the scope of the material you're covering, but it may be such a good answer that we've actually got to go and look it up ourselves. So keep asking.
Absolutely. Any mentors? I'm not going to go around the room and make you all give me a tip, but does anyone have a thing? Thank you. Does anyone have some tips they want to share?
I would just say do the workshop questions. It doesn't matter if you fall behind. You can always go back to them. They're really good practice to get into doing. You'll find the question. You'll have questions if you do them. You'll know where your gaps of knowledge are. I just think it's very beneficial to do it, you know, for assessments, just for helping you through the content and understanding. So do them. Even if you go back to them and do them later, or I mean, I try and do them when you can once a week, but you know, things happen.
So if you and then Ashley.
Another thing that that really helped me, especially in second year when I was in my George was saying that somebody who's in like the same class as you, and then she's like, we use Microsoft Teams for studying a lot. So like every day at a particular time, we treated it like a 9 to 5. So we just start at 9 and then we have a break at the same time, have lunch together, and then just like, it was really helpful, just like focusing and knowing that somebody else is doing the same training, especially during like exam time. Just group up and study together.
Just remember to take breaks. Like, it sounds like there's going to be so much to do. Like, everyone's telling you how many readings you're going to have to do. But if you're just reading and reading and reading, like, you won't be absorbing anything. So just make sure to take time for yourself, because if you're just reading and then you're like, this isn't working, like, it's always okay to take a break and then come back later. Yeah.
And also, you know, when things pile up, students have told me in the past, oh, I stopped going to mentoring because I was too busy. Mentoring is a really good break to go to. It's just a general chat. These guys will give you lots of information, but they'll also just be there to be a friendly listening ear or to hear you vent about things, and sometimes that can be really important. Josh, did you have any other?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I strongly advise against leaving references to like the day before an assignment, because A, you probably won't find all your sources, and B, you'll just be in absolute panic trying to get them all, for lack of a better word, AGLC compliant. You guys probably don't know about the AGLC, but
you will. It's coming. Actually, you might, because I did put up a post about books that you might need for the topic, and the AGLC is one of them. But if you don't know it, it's coming.
It's a real page turn to that one.
Yeah, if you do leave your references to like the day or 2 or 4, you gotta leave. If you've got like 30, 40 references, you want to leave at least like 3 hours plus to do the references. It takes a while.
Longer. Yeah. References you go. Good thing to keep in mind.
I got the PDF of 336 pages.
Yeah. Yeah. It's look, I really like it. It took me a long time to get used to the AGLC. So for those, so AGLC means Australian Guide to Legal Citation. It's the referencing book that we use in law. It's really long, as we've heard. So in your first semester, we'll basically be focusing on domestic sources. So within, usually within Australia, a few slight exceptions to that. But so we're only using half of it, which is a good thing. Then the next half you'll learn about in second semester in international law. When I started law and psychology, in psych we used something called APA referencing, and I thought that was great. I thought it was super easy until I started getting my assignments back, and it turns out that APA referencing can also be slightly subjective. AGLC referencing is not subjective. It is very black and white. There are rules to follow. I found it a lot easier to get used to eventually because of that, because I could basically open the AGLC and there was an example and I could just modify the example to suit my needs. We will go into this in much, much more detail. I am not expecting you to know anything about referencing in law until you come to class, and then I will teach you how to do it.
But just at this point though, and Sam will teach you all of this, but just taking one step back, because we've got experienced students here who understand why we're referencing, but just to take a step back and explain why. Whenever you make an argument in law, you put up a proposition, you have to support that with an authoritative source. So if you say the law is such, you know, the minister's decision must be lawful, you have to say because, and you cite either a case or legislation. It's primary sources, it's authoritative sources. If you just make a statement and you claim the law is such, or in torts you claim someone's in breach, and that put a full stop, nothing more, your lecturer is going to come back at you and say, what's your authority for that? And every time we say, what's your authority for that, you're putting in the references that we're talking about here. So the style, I don't want to downplay AGLC. AGLC is the style in which you write it, but more fundamentally what you're doing is citing a primary source, an authoritative source of law that backs up the argument you're making.
Absolutely, and you heard from Ashok a little bit earlier who talked about academic integrity. This all ties quite heavily back into academic integrity. And if you've had a look on our Canvas page, you'll find some videos and a quiz that you need to do as part of your assessment on that, which isn't due for a little while, but it's there in case you want to start having a look. Any other tips? Cool. Excellent. They will have lots of tips. I have pushed them to their limits with tips. Each of them had to write 3, which are on the piece of paper off the back. And in addition to that, I keep asking them yesterday and today to just provide instantly more tips. So yes, I feel like I maybe tipped out, perhaps. Opportunities available during the course. So Tanya talked a lot about this yesterday, sort of spruiking things like law in a digital age, which is really cool, and you get to sort of work with different groups and design apps to help access to justice and things like that. You get to do the Innovations Week, which Tanya and Rob and Judith have spoken a little bit about, which is really, really interesting, particularly doing innovation in your first semester, to start thinking about, well, what are some of these problems and how do we solve them and how do we use law to help solve them? That ties really nicely in with what we said a bit earlier today, that 65% of our students are going to end up in jobs we haven't even thought about yet. They haven't even been created yet. So bringing that innovation, that problem solving to your studies and to what comes afterwards is going to be really, really helpful. Okay, sorry, I thought you were saying something. So we do have lots and lots of different opportunities available for you within your studies and also separately to your studies. Which is actually the perfect segue to FUSA. Takuma, do you want to just do a little bit of a rundown? You can go into a bit more depth than you did earlier.
Okie dokie. Yes, so I'm still Takuma, and
Yes,
yeah, so as I said earlier, FUSA runs all of the events, competitions, seminars that happen throughout the year. So for example, I know that we're looking at running a client interview competition starting early on in the semester, and these are really good opportunities to improve your skills, put into practice the stuff you've been learning, meet new people, networking. It's all outstanding opportunities to really engage in your degree and get the most out of it you can, because everyone's here to learn, but these things let you connect the dots, this is why I'm learning this stuff, or this is how it actually applies. And so those are good, really good opportunities to do that, as well as we also run seminars. So I know Sam's going to talk about exam skills at some stage during the semester, and we'll probably have a hand in organizing and advertising that, I would imagine. We run events as well, so great ways to get out there and get to know your not former cohort, your cohort. So the first year dinner is happening at some stage at the start of March, and it's a great way to just get out there, have a nice night out, and meet the other first years. So yeah, we do all this kind of stuff, and as I said in the big theatre hall, the best way to keep in track with what we're doing is to check out our Facebook page or our website. Both of these you can just find by searching Flinders Law Student. It's Flinders Law Student Association on Google or Facebook.
Fantastic. Thank you. So that sort of brings us to the last little bit of this session, which is kind of over to you. Does anyone have any questions for us or for the type that in the chat? Yep, thank you. Any questions for Judith and I, or for any of the mentors or Takuma? Anything that you'd like to know about?
I do sort of have a question. It's not specifically law related. It's just more sort of a broad thing. Semesters, roughly how long do they sort of go for, and when do they sort of start and end, sort of thing?
So we have 12-week semesters and then exams on top of that.
Yep.
So start with week 1 next week, and then we have sort of 6 weeks, and we've got a 2-week non-teaching period. So not really a holiday, but a break from teaching, a really good chance to catch up, ask questions, get ahead, things like that. And then we come back afterwards for weeks 7 through 12. We have swap back after that, so where you can study for your exam and final assessments, and then we have a couple of exam weeks. Then a break, and semester 2 starts in July, mid to late July.
I would look it up, but you're going to say that the only thing about second semester is for street reasons that none of us understand. We don't have a break at week 6, we have a break at week 8. So it's semester 2 is those 8 weeks are quite long. Everyone feels it, but you have 2 weeks break after that, and then it's really quick and into the exams at the end.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, if you want a better look at it and just something you can go back to, you can just look up Flinders semester dates on Google, and I'll just bring you up on the website. It has all the dates, how the semester's going to go, when semester 2 starts, all of that.
All right, cool.
Good advice. Can I just jump in for a sec? Yeah. After we finish our session, the mentors will take you down to the hub as well, and there are like semester planners that you can pick up. So it's like an A3 big sheet of paper that if you like to just sort of see the map out of the semester, put it on your wall, put it on your desk, things like that. They can be really helpful.
Has anyone spoken about census dates?
No, we haven't.
So you might want to say something.
No,
but,
feel free.
now, I'm working on the basis that you're all here with us. You won't need to withdraw, but if you change or you want to go part-time or you want to mix up or do something different, keep your eye on the census day, because after census day, you're committed, let's be honest, you're committed to pay for your topic. So, and if you don't withdraw before then, you're both up for the money, and if you withdraw later, you'll have a withdrawal fail. So, yeah.
Anything else to say about census day in week 5?
Yeah.
So I guess the converse to that is you have to be registered in your topics by the end of week 2. And then if you do want to change anything, so if you decide that, like if you're doing 4 topics and you want to do 3 instead or something like that, you have to withdraw from topics by the end of week 5. Otherwise, your hex debt will increase or you'll have to pay up front. Other questions? And that's not as scary as it sounds, and we will remind you about all of that, and it'll all be fine.
Can I ask a personal question? What about your travels overseas made you want to be a lawyer? Is that like a triggering moment? Or?
Well, it's funny. I don't know if you realise. It was not actually that. I went away and had to think about it and made my decision then. What I actually did was I had never thought about law. I took librarianship because the career advisor said, I can't even look back, it makes me cringe, but you like books, be a librarian. And I had a cousin who was a librarian and I knew nothing about the world, so I thought I will be a librarian. I ended up working in the federal court and I was teaching judges associates, so recently qualified, really smart law students. I was teaching them to find, this will give you the heebie-jeebies, I was still teaching them to find legal sources, and they'd already graduated. And I thought, if they can do law, I can do law. So I went off, thought about it, and thought, nah, I'm going to go back to myself. That was it.
By the end of your first semester, you will know how to find those legal.
Yes, we teach it much earlier.
This is why I cringed when Judith said, you know, they graduate. I just think, oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, sorry, I won't go on about this, but I mean, back then they didn't teach it to us. And in fact, I was teaching honours students how to find sources at the end of the degree, but we teach it all now right up front.
The degrees look very different, even to when I studied, and I think that's been a little while now as well, but the degree looks very different now. All right, any other questions? We still have time for it. Awesome. Well, Jeremy has given me some forms to give you just to get your evaluated sessions that we've had today. I'll leave the mentor bios at the back if you grab one yesterday. Sarah Houston's floating around as well. No, you can't. That's fine. You're presenters for this. Is there online, but there's a link there. Do you love a QR code? Very good. I feel like it's
Just like Google QR code maker and you put the link that you want it in and then it pops out a code.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That is it.
So once we finish with the surveys, the mentors will walk everyone down to the hub.
I just say it's lovely to meet you all. We now have an induction for new staff, so if it's all right with everyone, I might go and meet the new
Absolutely.
tutors.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool. And so for the rest of you that are in the room, I'm going to stick around in case anyone has any questions. Otherwise, when you're finished with, thanks Judith, when you're finished with your evaluations, the mentors will take you down to the hub. I hear that there's a free lunch happening down there. There's also lots of free merch for you to collect if you would like to. And then that sort of concludes everything for today. Or up here anyway, there's lots and lots happening down at the bottom of the hill. But otherwise, we'll see you in workshops next week.
The free merch, some of it can be really good.
Yep.